Beneath the South China Sea lies $26 trillion in untapped oil, gas, and minerals, fueling a fierce contest among global powers. Nations large and small vie for control, seeking a share of the riches hidden in the seabed. The U.S. Navy's presence signals just how high the stakes have become. The South China Sea is now a global flashpoint. Its outcome will echo far beyond Asia. The South China Sea's value is rooted in its vast fossil fuel reserves, at least 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, according to U.S. estimates. For China, these reserves are critical to energy security. For the Philippines and Vietnam, they could transform economies and reduce dependence on imports. The potential for even greater undiscovered resources drives fierce competition. Nations push territorial claims, sending survey ships and drilling rigs into disputed waters, often with naval escorts. The seabed is also rich in minerals, polymetallic nodules and methane hydrates, a future energy source. As technology advances, extracting these resources becomes more feasible, raising the stakes. The nation that masters deep-sea extraction will gain a major economic and strategic edge. This bounty is a double-edged sword. It promises prosperity but also fuels conflict. Overlapping claims and undefined boundaries create a volatile environment. Every drilling operation can be seen as a provocation. No claimant is willing to back down. The prize is simply too large. The South China Sea is a cauldron of competing interests. The race for resources is relentless. The outcome will shape the region's future. The world's next energy frontier is here. The stakes could not be higher. The contest is far from over. The Philippines, with over 7,600 islands, forms the eastern rim of the South China Sea, a gatekeeper to vital maritime highways. Its geography makes it indispensable for any power-seeking influence in the region. The Philippines' exclusive economic zone is rich in fish, oil, and gas, but overlaps with China's sweeping 9-line claim. This has led to repeated confrontations, Filipino fishermen harassed, energy projects blocked. For Manila, this is a direct challenge to sovereignty and the right to develop its own resources. Militarily, the Philippines is crucial real estate. Its islands could serve as forward bases for monitoring and operations. U.S. access to Philippine ports and airfields under defense agreements is vital for maintaining a credible presence. This presence deters aggression and reassures allies. The Philippines is a frontline state in the great power competition of the 21st century. Its long coastline and strategic straits make it both vulnerable and valuable. The country must balance its alliance with the U.S. against pressure from China. Its destiny is tied to the sea. The choices it makes will determine its future prosperity and security. The Philippines cannot escape the currents of geopolitics swirling through these waters. Its role is central to the unfolding drama. The stakes for Manila have never been higher. The South China Sea is the main stage for U.S.-China rivalry. For China, control means security and breaking out of the first island chain. Beijing's artificial islands, bristling with runways and missiles, are strategic bastions. The U.S., as the world's top maritime power, insists on freedom of navigation. 1/3 of global trade passes through these waters. U.S. freedom of navigation operations challenge China's claims, sailing warships near Chinese-occupied features. Each side makes moves and counter-moves. China builds islands and deploys its coast guard. The U.S. increases patrols and strengthens alliances. The game is about presence and perception, demonstrating resolve without triggering open conflict. The U.S. Navy's presence in Philippine waters reassures allies and positions American assets for rapid response. The rivalry is military, diplomatic, and economic. The U.S. builds coalitions to push back against Chinese assertiveness, promoting a free and open Indo-Pacific. China uses economic leverage to win influence and persuade neighbors. The Philippines is caught between these giants, navigating their competing visions. The contest is unfolding right on its doorstep. The stakes are regional stability and the future of the global order. Every move is watched worldwide. The chessboard is set, and the next moves will shape Asia's future. The South China Sea dispute involves more than just the US and China. Vietnam fiercely defends its claims, modernizing its military and clashing with Chinese vessels. Malaysia and Brunei, though quieter, face Chinese intrusions near their energy projects. Indonesia, not a spratly claimant, still faces Chinese encroachment near the Natuna Islands and has boosted its naval presence. These nations want to uphold their rights under international law, but are divided by overlapping claims and economic ties to China. China prefers to negotiate one-on-one, using its leverage. The US strategy: strengthen ties with each nation, building a network committed to a rules-based maritime order. The South China Sea is a battleground for gray zone tactics, coercion just below open conflict. China deploys the world's largest coast guard and a maritime militia of fishing vessels to intimidate rivals and assert claims. These forces blockade islands, harass fishermen and disrupt energy exploration, all while maintaining plausible deniability. The US Navy counters with a constant presence, destroyers and cruisers providing surveillance and exposing coercion. Joint patrols with the Philippine Navy send a powerful signal of support, emboldening Manila to stand firm. In 2025, the US increased joint sails near contested areas, with carrier strike groups making frequent passages. These are deliberate shows of force, reminding all parties of US military capability. The Philippine Navy, with limited resources, relies on US backing to assert sovereignty. The standoff is tense but stable. China tries to change facts on the water. The US prevents those changes from becoming permanent. Every ship movement sends a message: deterrence, reassurance, or defiance. The game is delicate, with high risks for miscalculation. The US presence is a crucial backstop for its allies. The contest is as much about perception as power. The stakes are regional order and the rules of the sea. The outcome will set precedents for future conflicts. The world is watching every maneuver. The legal battle centers on the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. In 2013, the Philippines challenged China's sweeping claims at The Hague. The 2016 tribunal ruling was a landmark victory for Manila. China's 9-dash line was declared baseless, and key features were affirmed as Philippine territory. The ruling is legally binding, but China rejected it and doubled down on its activities, building islands, increasing patrols, and enforcing its claims. This clash pits international law against raw power. The US, though not a claimant, strongly supports the ruling and a rules-based order. Washington cites the ruling as the legal basis for its position and backs it with naval operations and diplomacy. By supporting the Philippines' legal victory, the US aims to ensure disputes are settled by law, not force. The ruling is a powerful tool, but only if the world stands behind it. The contest is now between law and might. The outcome will shape the future of global order. The stakes could not be clearer. The US is deeply involved in the South China Sea for several reasons. First, its alliance with the Philippines is a cornerstone of regional security. The Mutual Defense Treaty obligates support in case of attack. US officials have clarified an attack on Philippine forces in the South China Sea would trigger the treaty. This commitment deters aggression and reassures allies. Second, the South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. Its stability directly impacts the US economy. Freedom of navigation protects supply chains, prices, and jobs. Allowing one nation to control these waters would threaten the world economy, a risk Washington won't accept. Third, the US seeks to maintain a favorable balance of power in the Indo-Pacific, preventing any single power from dominating. Supporting smaller nations and upholding international law promotes a free and open region. This is both strategic and principled. The dispute is a test case for the future of the international order. Will rules or raw power prevail? If China ignores the 2016 ruling and succeeds by force, it sets a dangerous precedent worldwide. For the US, defending the rules-based order here is about global stability. The stakes are not just regional, they're global. The US Navy's presence is a signal. The world is watching, and the rules matter. The outcome will echo for decades. The US Navy's presence in Philippine waters is a calculated response to a complex puzzle. At its heart, a $26 trillion prize and a contest for regional dominance. The Philippines is at the epicenter, a critical partner for the US. The rivalry between the US and China is joined by the ambitions of Vietnam, Malaysia, and others. The contest plays out in the gray zone: coercion versus deterrence, law versus power. The 2016 Hague ruling gives legal backbone, but China continues to defy it. The stakes: treaty obligations, global trade, balance of power, and the rules-based order. The future is uncertain. A single miscalculation could spark crisis. The world watches as navies patrol and leaders negotiate. The question remains, can the nations of the Indo-Pacific share the sea, or is conflict inevitable?